Hello, everyone. I'll kind of draw your attention to a few things while people start to pile in. There is a participant pledge in the chat, which I think is this way if I point. It's this way for me, this way for you, this way. Which is in the chat. If you could please take a read over that. These are just some of the guidelines that we're using to be in this space together tonight. So please take a look there. Well, I'll also direct you to the Ask a Question, which I know is below somewhere down here. So I'll point in the right direction. Please feel free to ask some questions below. We have some people looking those over for us, and then we'll be answering those at the end of our little itinerary that we have here tonight. I don't know, do I just ad lib for a little bit longer and then we can go into introductions?
I see
Hello,
people
everyone.
saying hi.
People are saying hi in the chat.
Yeah, I see Vicky and Matthew and Benjamin. Hello, friends. Hello, Scandin. I don't think I know who you are in real life, unlike everyone else in the chat, but oh my God, so many friends. I can't keep up.
My mic seems to be struggling a little bit. Interesting.
Ooh, she sounds loud enough for me. Oh, okay, we're good.
Well, what did I do? Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Excellent. Isla is out on the balcony. So my dog's name is Isla, and she just went outside for a little walk, and she's snoozing on the balcony. Yes, my dog. Maybe if she comes back inside later, you'll get to see her. Someone else in the chat just asked a good question. Where is Nada, our fourth executive? Nada will be joining us in just a little bit. She had a conflict with the start of the town hall. So just building anticipation for when we have the whole team together. Yeah.
But don't worry, we'll have a fourth person up here with us in just a little bit, but no spoilies, I guess. Knowing that I see some people starting to come in and that it's been a few minutes now, why don't we jump into some introductions of the executive team first, and then we can hop into the little itinerary that we have.
Awesome. I guess I can go first. So
go ahead,
my
Megan.
name is Megan Town. I am the Vice President Education for WUSA. So that means I handle almost all of our external advocacy, talking to the government, as well as some of our internal advocacy. I use she, her pronouns. And as the chat has alluded, I have a very cute dog who might make an appearance later.
I can pop in next. So I'm Abbie. I am the current president of WUSA, and I deal primarily with a lot of our operations and governance, and miscellaneous, I guess, is the way to explain that. VP Special Projects is another name that I'm often given. So I'll pass it on to Alana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alana, and I'm your VP Operations and Finance for one more month. And the name kind of says it all: operations and finance, budgets, commercial operations, staff, all of those lovely, fun things I get to kind of oversee.
Awesome.
Great. And I guess as some have asked in the chat here too, I'll just quickly introduce Nada and then allow Nada to introduce herself later on. Nada is the VP Student Life, dealing with our student services, clubs, all the fun stuff that you normally would see around campus and now see virtually from the comfort of your homes. So that's what Nada's been up to. So yeah, as you can see, that was just popped in the chat here. I did it right this time. We have a few kind of itinerary items that we want to get through before we start taking just open questions. We're going to start off with talking a little bit about some of the advocacy milestones from this year, and I'm going to pass it on to Megan, I don't know where she is for all of you, but she's this way for me. And let her take away the advocacy milestones.
Awesome. Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk about 3 different things today. One really awesome success, one thing that's kind of in the works, and one thing that maybe isn't going so well. So let's start with the one, I guess, really exciting advocacy milestone that we've had recently. And I'm just going to pop a link in the chat for anyone who's interested in reading more. But the provincial government recently announced changes to the way that they mandate universities to have sexual violence and harassment policies. So basically the government says, you need to have this policy and it needs to have this, this, and this, et cetera, in it. So they took very specifically the recommendations that we brought to them last year and have now implemented them for new requirements for the sexual violence and harassment policies that are at post-secondary institutions. So including the one that applies here at the University of Waterloo. So this is a really exciting win for us because it means that there will be stronger protections and more appropriate policies in place for in the case that you have to deal with an instance of sexual assault or harassment on campus. So we obviously hope that never happens, but we're also definitely appreciative of strong policies that that make it so that the experience you have afterwards is really kind of survivor-centric and not like re-traumatizing folks as they're trying to navigate those processes. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was two-way all-day go advocacy. So for those who are not familiar, it's been a big advocacy point in the region of Waterloo for quite a while to have GO trains running from here to Toronto all day, every day, as opposed to just kind of the commuter trains that run right now. So one kind of step in the right direction is this recent announcement, which is kind of in preparation for enhancing that GO train service. So basically, Metrolinx, the company that owns GO trains, is making like repairs and infrastructure upgrades so that we are one step closer to two-way all-day go, which I know anyone who is kind of from Toronto or the GTA would definitely appreciate, make it a lot easier to go home for sure. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was something that's not going super great. If you keep an eye on our social media, you'll notice that we recently put in a budget submission to the provincial government. So that budget submission asked for a bunch of things. A couple of my favorites were asking for more student financial aid for students through OSAP, as well as asking for grants. So essentially the government to give money to universities to do equity work. And the provincial budget was released yesterday. Unfortunately, we did not get to see any of those investments that we were asking for. There were a couple other post-secondary student-focused pieces about Indigenous institutions and micro-credentials, but nothing that we were kind of hoping to see to support students both like through COVID-19 and after COVID-19. So that's a bit of a disappointment. If you are like curious, you can check out the budget. We're also putting together a bit of a breakdown to like help folks understand what this means, because it can be kind of confusing. So keep an eye on our socials for that coming out soon. I don't know if anyone else has anything they wanted to add on advocacy updates.
I guess I can add a little bit of information. This year, I've had the opportunity to work with the Committee on Student Mental Health, or affectionately known as COSMH or COSM, depending on who you're talking to. That committee is actually wrapping up their work after 3 years at the end of April to release a final report. That way the university can focus on some more important work around the return to campus and how we can better support students in their mental health as we start to slowly return to the Waterloo region. The one thing that I do want to highlight from that work is some work that actually was not completed by the committee that will be completed in conjunction with the GSA and WUSA, along with our partners at the university, to bring a ombuds office, an ombudsperson office to the University of Waterloo. it's very unique that Waterloo doesn't have one. So we've been ramping up some advocacy on that, and I'm really excited to see the incoming team take an interest in that in their platform and continue some of that really great work that myself and my counterpart David at the GSA have had a lot of opportunities to collaborate and work with the university. So very excited to see that actually making some movement. I'm sure that if Michael, the former president, were listening, he'd be very excited to hear that that advocacy is moving forward. Okay. I don't know if anyone else has anything in addition you'd like to chat about.
There was a quick question in the chat. Who is the incoming team? Abbie is referring to the people who are coming to take our jobs. So there are 4 new executives that will be starting May 1st. I was just trying to find the announcement post so I could pop it in the chat. But very, very quickly, their names are Benjamin, Matthew, Catherine, and Stephanie.
Yes, they're not stealing our jobs. They were elected into their positions, democratically elected. So there's no stealing going on here. We are very, very excited to see them do some excellent work next year and hopefully back on campus. That's what I wish for them. All right. We'll kind of move on here a little bit. We do have a really exciting, like I said, we do have a very, very exciting 4th person who's going to be joining us on screen, and I'll ask them to kind of turn their camera on because I think I saw them hanging out in the corner of our call. Mystery guest, hello. I'll let you introduce yourself, but this is where we're going to move on and talk a little bit about sustainability within WUSA, and I will pass it over.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm not Nada. I don't have as cool of hair as Nada, unfortunately. But hi, I'm Michelle. I am the new WUSA Sustainability Commissioner, and I am at the helm of the WUSA Sustainability Project, which used to be, thank you, I'm getting distracted by your compliments, but what used to be the Sustainable Campus Initiative has now become the WUSA Sustainability Project. So we've been going through some rebranding and restructuring, but this is my first term in this role, and I'm super excited to do some awesome work with WUSA and with the rest of campus on sustainability. Yeah, I am going to share my screen because I have some fun visual aids for this little introduction of WSP. Okay. Somebody let me know if you can't see this. I'm always paranoid that it's not going to work. But yeah, this is the WUSA Sustainability Project. Essentially is trying to be a centralized hub for all different types of sustainability work on campus and just one step forward towards more serious action on sustainability on campus that's student-driven and student-centered. So super excited to chat a little bit about what WSP is doing, what our plans are for the next term, and what we've been up to this term. Cool. So as I briefly alluded to before, the Sustainable Campus Initiative has become WSP. So we were always a part of WUSA, but now it's what used to be the student group is now folded into one position, which is mine, and I get to oversee Campus Compost and the Clothing Project. More on those later. But as I mentioned, it's the newly consolidated and revamped version of SCI, and it was designed to be an advocacy body and centralized hub for sustainability on campus. So essentially, my role is to be your advocate, to speak for or speak on behalf of undergrad students to WUSA and the university administration on issues of sustainability. And maybe I'll put a little caveat here and say that sustainability, I'm trying to broaden that definition a little bit. So not just environmental sustainability, but thinking more broadly about how we can be more sustainable in all types of actions that we take, whether that be economic or social and things like that. So I really want to take a sort of interdisciplinary and intersectional approach to my sustainability. I don't want it to just be relegated to recycling or renewable energy, even though those are great also. I really want to bring a more holistic and comprehensive view of what sustainability could be to WUSA, seeing as we have so many amazing students and lots of awesome resources and staff. I feel like we have a really great potential to really push the envelope on what it means to be sustainable and to make sure that we're a leader in sustainability on campus, as well as, in the broader Waterloo region. Cool. I briefly introduced myself already, but this is me. And Emma is our current WSP marketing exec. I think she's in the chat, so if you want to say something, I can't see that screen, but if you want to say something, Emma, she is our amazing marketing exec, working behind the scenes to put together like communication stuff. And obviously the other half of our team is Redmond and Lucy and Miriam, who lead Campus Compost and the WUSA Clothing Project, respectively. So they fall under the umbrella of what WSP is, but I hope that in the future, as we continue to grow, and once we get back on campus, we can actually start doing things in person. I'm hoping to see more groups and projects come up and fall under the umbrella of WSP. So maybe I'll just briefly talk about Campus Compost and the Clothing Project, because they couldn't be here tonight with me. So the Campus Compost has been here for years. They started out of a need for composting, which did not exist on campus. And now they do a lot of engagement and educational stuff around sustainability, and obviously in terms of waste management and things like that. The Clothing Project is also super exciting. So you may or may not have heard that WUSA is opening a thrift store on campus. Obviously, we're like really in the fledgling stages of this, and it's hard to plan a store with COVID, but we're hoping to get that up and running in the next few terms. Yes, I can't say exactly for sure, but this was a long time project of what used to be Sustainable Campus Initiative, and I've been watching this progress over the past year, and we're renovating our space in SLC, we're getting our stuff, we're getting the furniture in place, and I'm really excited that in the next few terms we'll be able to open our doors to campus. Cool. Now that I've gone through the team, I just want to talk a little bit about what WSP does. So obviously we've talked a lot about what sustainability is, who we are, but I just want to go through what I have sort of decided on the direction of WSP. So I have 3 different pillars, as you can see. The first one is consolidation. So this means reaching out to different groups and creating a sustainability directory, which we should be launching on social media soon, which sort of serves as a place where any student can come and see at a glance what kind of sustainability work is being done on campus. And I've had the immense pleasure over the past few weeks of meeting with dozens of different groups and people who are doing work in and around sustainability on campus. And I'm trying to facilitate knowledge and resource sharing as much as possible within those groups and with anybody who's related and who's interested in sustainability. The second pillar is communication. So as I mentioned before, I really am trying to aim to do some interdisciplinary outreach and engagement. So that means reaching out to different faculties that might not be traditionally related to sustainability. I can say that because I'm an environment student and I understand how much of a bubble we live in. And I'm really trying to engage and inspire people who might not think they're interested in sustainability, but definitely bring their own unique perspective to what sustainability is. And I really want to emphasize that sustainability is something for there's something for everyone in sustainability. It's not just planting trees or cleaning up rivers, even though that's super important, but it could be Engineers Without Borders, who does work around international development and sustainable development, for example. And you can bring sustainability into anything that you're studying, anything that you're working on. There's always a way to reimagine something in a more sustainable and resilient way. So really trying to get that across and really want to engage with as many people as possible and sort of show them that you can care about sustainability and you don't have to give up what you're passionate about. You can just incorporate the two things, or how you can reframe your current work or your studies in a more sustainable way. The last pillar is more of the advocacy piece. So I get to serve as the WUSA rep on PACES, taking over Abbie's position. And also within WUSA, I have the ability to sort of move policies or to be that student voice and the voice of sustainability in WUSA. And this is something I'll be exploring for the rest of the term and for next term until my tenure is over. And I definitely want to reach out to as many people as possible and to consult with, the undergrad student body here on what issues they care about and what gaps that they think exist on campus that WSP can help fill. Next, so what's in the works? What have I been working on? The first thing and really exciting thing is the SLC Student Lounge, or the Bomber renovation project, is hopefully going to be underway in the next few months or so. But I've had the opportunity to talk with some awesome WUSA staff about this project, trying to bring a student perspective to the project and dumping lots and lots of research and sustainability considerations onto them so that we can incorporate that into the designs and into the construction of this awesome new lounge that's coming to campus, hopefully soon, as soon as possible. The second thing I've been working on is how to incorporate sustainability more into orientation and how to really start to engage students as soon as they step foot on virtual or physical campus, and trying to think about how, in those crucial first few weeks of school, how can we sort of engage as many students as possible in sustainability, or to connect them with a group related to sustainability on campus. The third thing is my project pathway, which hopefully will be unfolding in the next few terms once, or most of us are back on campus. Just trying to figure out a way that we can bring all these amazing ideas I've been hearing from students and groups about ways that they want to improve campus, whether that be through infrastructural changes like solar panels or rain barrels or all those wonderful things, as well as maybe things that they want to incorporate into curriculum or into operations and things like that. So trying to broaden our our sort of imagination to the entirety of campus, to the entirety of the student body, and trying to open up pathways for people who are interested to get involved and to give them the resources that they need to bring projects to fruition. And the last thing I sort of alluded to was just partnerships with more program societies, with different faculties, and trying to reach as broad of a base as possible. And much more, especially in the coming terms. I'm really excited to get started on some new projects and to hear from as many people as possible as to what I should be directing my attention to. That's super important. So if you ever want to contact me, if you have any suggestions, concerns, ideas, or anything that you think I should be paying more attention to, please feel free to reach out. We are at WUSA Sustainability on Facebook and Instagram, and my inbox is open at wsp@wusa.ca. Last plug, I am looking for a marketing exec for next term because the wonderful Emma is leaving us. If you're interested in getting involved with WSP, there's also other positions for the clothing project and campus compost on Leeds. I'll also drop that in the chat later, but that's my presentation.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah. I pulled a couple questions from the chat for you. The first one is, where is the thrift shop in the Student Life Center for those of us who either haven't been there ever or who haven't been there in a while?
So the thrift store is taking over the Apple II space, which is what used to be used by the food bank, but it's on the ground floor of SLC, like across from CIBC. If you go there now, it's pretty unassuming. We haven't started renovations yet, but hopefully in the next term or two, there'll be a lot more to look at. But yeah, ground floor, SLC, it is there.
And last question here. Are you going to do a fun Macklemore thrift shopping video?
You know what? That's a great idea. If you want to do that, please reach out. I am totally on board. I will get you in touch with our marketing team. Like WUSA would love that, I'm sure.
Michelle, I know you're going to be off the screen for everyone to see here, but please take a look in the chat because it looks like people are trying to give you all of the really good ideas. So you might want to take a few notes. I guess not because I can see anyone and I don't think you can do a round of applause clapping, but thank you so much, Michelle, for all the work that you do. And if you're sitting at home and you want to give Michelle a round of applause, or clap in the chat, please feel free to do either one of those. Thank you again, Michelle, for all the work that you do and for coming and joining us up here.
Thanks. I'll just be in the chat answering questions. So thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. You have a lot of love. All right. So we're going to go on to the next item of our itinerary. Nada, if you want to start by introducing yourself. I tried to do my best introduction of what the VP Student Life does, but it's always great to hear from the person who lives the job. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us about your role, and then jump into some anti-racism updates.
Thanks, Abbie. So, hello, I am Nada, and I'm your Vice President Student Life. Shortened to VPSL. So essentially what I do is I oversee services, clubs, orientation, special events, anything that has to do with student life. And for this year, equity is under my portfolio, or majorly under my portfolio as well. Anyways, so jumping into the anti-racism updates. So I have three main points that I do want to go over, one of which is related to an annual plan goal that I have in our executive action plan, annual plan, whatever it's called. And that is the equity fund. So in terms of updates on the equity fund, it's going. We are at the point where we're just figuring out a few technicalities with procedure. So yeah, look forward to that. We are trying to finalize that so it's available for students and student groups to access as well. The second one is the HREI review panel. And I'm not sure if you all know this, but HREI, which is the Human Rights, Equity and Inclusion Office, is undergoing a review right now, and they are calling upon members of the Waterloo community to give their feedback on the unit as a whole. So if you've heard about it, and if you have something to say about it, please connect with the panel. If you haven't heard about it, please let me know. Email me at vpsl@wusa.ca, and we can talk about it. But in general, the update was mainly that us as WUSA, so myself and Abbie from the executive team, were able to meet with the HREI review panel, and they were very nice. And obviously anything that you say there is in confidence. So if you're interested and have had experience with the HREI office, unit, voice your feedback. So that's that. I'll be going on to my next and last point, which is PART advocacy. So the President's Anti-Racism Task Force advocacy. So I'm not sure where you're up or how up to date you are on that, but I guess last time we talked about it, we had a PART policy that was passed through council, essentially guiding our advocacy to the university on PART. So right now we've been able to successfully appoint 5 undergraduate students onto the 5 working groups that are associated with PART. We also have WUSA representation on the Equity Data Advisory Group, which kind of links to our other annual plan goal of collecting and advocating for the collection of race-based data. And then lastly, we're attempting to get WUSA representation as well on parts of the task force itself. So as always, if you have any questions about parts, please email me or email Abbie, because we're the two people that are closely connected to the communications that have to do with part. And that is pretty much it.
Great, thanks, Nada. I also just want to highlight, I think, just one update from myself. So in January, I started working with a external equity consultant to put together a proposal and plan for the organization. Unfortunately, they're no longer able to serve with us. So I am now in the process of finding a new consultant to work with myself for the remainder of my term, as well as the incoming team. So I'll be engaging in that process next week, and hopefully finding a new firm to support the goals of our organization. So just wanted to kind of add that on the end there as an update that I gave at the previous council meeting, but also wanted to highlight for all the students here to let them know where we are. Great. Oh, Megan, you also wanted to say something?
Yeah, I had one more thing to add that I've been working on. So I am very excited to share that the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance just passed a new policy paper called Addressing Racism and Religious Discrimination. So myself and my Associate Vice President Government Affairs were both authors on that policy paper. So it's still getting kind of cleaned up and fleshed out. So unfortunately, I cannot throw the link in the chat for that one. But that was a really big endeavor for us, and I'm super excited to be able to use all of those fantastic policy recommendations going forward.
I just want to, before we move on, I just want to remind everyone in the chat that when you entered the space, and if you were to scroll to the top of this chat, and I actually might just ask if some of our meeting organizers on the back end could just re-put in the participant pledge that we talked about at the beginning of this call. I don't want any inappropriate comments in the chat. It's totally fine to ask some questions, respond to some of the things that we're talking about, but I just want to make it very clear that if you are posting inappropriate things, we will be removing them. And if you persist, we will be removing you individually. So please be mindful of what you're posting in the chat. You are in a space with other people who want to ask some questions and participate in a really meaningful and productive discussion. So bear that in mind. Great. Again, if someone on the back end could post the participant pledge in the chat, just as a reminder and refresher, because I know that we have some new people on the call here. I just want to make sure.
Hey, Abbie, it looks like there's two accounts under that name. So I'm just going to go ahead and chat with our folks on the back end to make sure that that people aren't using a name that is not them.
Yeah, that would be incredibly inappropriate if that is true. It is not funny to impersonate another individual. I know that we're online and it's tempting, but please do not impersonate other people and post inappropriate things in chats.
So everyone knows, I'm also going to send Carl an email and just make sure we have the right Carl.
Great. Thank you to all the people on the back end who are responding. So knowing that we have a question period at the end of our little session here, we will go on to the next item in our agenda, which is talking a little bit about annual plan updates and our goals moving forward. I'm not sure if anyone on the team wants to start with some of their goals. I know that Nada just shared an update from one of the goals from the annual plan, but if no one wants to go, I can start. It looks like Nada, go ahead.
Of course, I have more goals to talk about. So if you've been involved in clubs or have been a club executive, I'm pretty sure you've seen the latest iteration of the club's admin system. So that is something that's pretty exciting because we are getting the updates rolling. So, and we will have them rolling as well after this fiscal year to ensure that club executives and anyone who wants to participate with clubs is able to do that in the most accessible manner. Yeah, so that's also another thing that was on the annual plan that I will be proud to share. I've also shared a lot as well, so I'll pass it over to the next exec.
Thanks so much. I'm sure everyone on the call here has had a very busy, very exhausting year, and your executives share in that exhaustion and busyness. So obviously this year didn't look and feel and go the way I'm sure a lot of you expected, and I'm sure we personally expected as well, especially with kind of that fingers crossed moment last March where we thought we'd be back on campus in the fall term and then ended up spending our entire term online, not getting to meet and interact with the people that we work with. So our annual plan goals, while ambitious, did not turn out the way we wanted to, but that does not mean that we didn't accomplish anything. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that we're most proud of. And one of the things that I want to highlight that I was most proud of and most excited about coming into this role is how WUSA can partner with advancement, our alumni relations, to strengthen our connections and students' connections with alumni from that kind of supportive mentorship perspective, but also from the supporting of our student projects and student-run initiatives through our student funds. So I actually just this week had an opportunity to bring forward my plan to UWaterloo's advancement team to talk a little bit about what that partnership will look like going on in the future and set that groundwork for a really meaningful partnership. So that was something that I was very, very proud of, that I was able to maybe not complete, but set the groundwork and set things in motion for the next teams and teams down the line to pick up and do something with. So, I mean, that's all you can really ask for as an executive, that you put something in motion and something will happen after that, because a year seems like a really long time, but it's actually really not when there's a million other things to manage as well. So I just wanted to highlight that as kind of one area that I was most proud of from the annual plan goals that I've been working on. I think if I were to highlight one additional thing is I just want to highlight some of the work of one of our student clubs. So in the fall term, I actually had the honor of working with UW Base. UW Base brought forward a proposal to counseling services for a Black student support counselor for counseling services, which they have now hired a full-time role. And I was really, really proud of the work that they were able to achieve, and worked with counseling services to make sure that those students who worked hard to bring forward that proposal were included in the hiring panel, so that they could be a part of kind of seeing through that vision for what that full-time staff role would look like on our campus. So that falls under some of the goals that I had for mental health supports for students. So I was really, really proud of the work that it really wasn't the work that I did. It was the work of students and their advocacy. But I was, I don't know, happy to be kind of in the presence of the work that they were doing. So that's another kind of exciting thing that has happened on our campus since probably the last time we've done a public update like this. Megan, Alana, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I threw the link to the annual plan in the chat earlier in case anyone has forgotten what's on it. Because there's a lot. There's a lot on there, like Abbie said. I think two of the things that I was most proud of accomplishing this year were my work with external advocacy, as well as expansion of WUSA's research capacity. So firstly, with external advocacy, I ran for a leadership position with the Undergraduates of Canadian Research Intensive Universities, which is the federal advocacy organization that we work with. And I was successful in the role of the advocacy committee chair. So I've done a lot of work in terms of like speaking with some pretty high profile politicians, as well as writing letters to key ministries for students, as well as pioneering the first policy process that the organization has ever undertaken. So within the next month or so, we will have published our first 3 policy papers, which kind of creates a stronger foundation for us to advocate on a federal landscape for some topics that we haven't really dove into before, like mental health. On the research side of things, I started up a research co-op position for us. So it was my predecessor's work to get the funding, and I was pleased to operationalize that funding by hiring and supervising our first ever research co-op student, and then handing it over to our full-time research staff to continue that position on, now that I'll be leaving. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was one goal that hasn't gone so great. It's a goal in our annual plan that's called the Student Research Program. And the idea behind this is to have a more effective way to survey students and to make sure that the data that we're getting is demographically representative of our student body. I am pleased to announce that that project is now known as the Representative Survey Platform. And there is a lot of back-end work that has gone on for this project, but unfortunately nothing that we have to show for it at this point. So I am looking forward to the work that our full-time staff and my successor are going to be able to do on this project to make sure that we are able to accurately collect information from students that we can use when we're advocating and doing things like writing policy papers to prepare to advocate. I think that's all I had to add, so maybe I'll throw it over to Alana.
Yeah, one that I'm really proud of is the COVID-19 response pillar. I think, honestly, the three of you have done an amazing job as far as I'm concerned. And I'll throw myself in there, but I don't like to give myself compliments. But honestly, the adaptation that was necessary throughout this year was a lot, and I think we have very gracefully at times come through it. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of. I guess also working on the bomber project this year was something that meant a lot to me, because for those of you who don't know, I've been with WUSA for 6 years, and I started at Bomber, and my first 4 years were spent working at Bomber. So that's something that has really given back to me and like fulfilled me throughout the year. And yeah, there's a lot of fight required for these jobs, trying to get things done and convince everyone that needs to be convinced, that ideas need to be put through, and all of these things. And it has been hard, but it has definitely been rewarding.
I think something I just want to highlight, because I know we were talking about annual plan goals, and it feels weird to talk about long-range plan goals when when you're at the end of your year and the long-range plan seems, I guess, incompletion seems so far away for, I guess, a 5-year plan. But you can see Michael in the back, so this is helpful to give Michael a shout out for the work that he did in his time as president, and then the work that I was able to, I guess, support him with while he was president and then take over during my term. The long-range plan was definitely a highlight of the year for me. I love thinking about strategic planning, and it was really wonderful to see this full-time staff and part-time staff at WUSA come together and really, I guess, appreciate the plan and feel excited about the plan was something that I was, I guess, felt really good to accomplish that. So when I talk about the long-range plan, there's kind of one goal that I just want to highlight that I've spent, well, since March last year working on, and I still can't believe that we're still working on it, is the purchase and implementation of Imprint as our student publication under WUSA's kind of umbrella and suite of services. I'm really excited about this project. I'm excited to see WUSA take that on. I'm excited to see kind of the long-term success of that work, as one of the goals of the annual plan is to support student publications across our campus. It's nice that we're able to kind of do that in-house as well. So I'm excited about that aspect of the long-range plan, in addition to the annual plan goals that we were able to accomplish, and maybe not so much accomplish, but at least start this year. So congratulations to my team for all of the hard work that they did on the creation of the annual plan and the implementation of some of their goals. So I don't know, round of applause. I see some F's in the chat. I don't think you need to. We're all very proud of the work that we've done. So I would prefer rounds of applause than F's in the chat. Okay. Before anyone on the executive team starts crying from nostalgia, why don't we, well, I guess I'll just ask the team, is there anything else that you kind of want to add to the annual plan goals topic?
I don't think so. I was fully ready to put the general meeting agenda in the chat.
Okay, great. Yes, let's move on to the general meeting information and updates. So I'm really, really excited to talk about this because it's coming up really fast. This year looks the same as last year, but may feel a little different to those of you who weren't around last year and not familiar with a delegated meeting of Students' Council. We are going to take you through the agenda, but I just want to go over a couple reminders that our Students' Council and those who requested to be gallery members will actually receive tomorrow morning as the link. I just received the link before coming into this meeting, so I want to make sure that I get all of the information together so that you all know how to meaningfully participate in the meeting with the controls that are put onto the Teams link. So don't worry about that. You will be receiving it well in advance of the meeting at 1 o'clock. Should be one of the first things in your inbox tomorrow morning, hopefully, unless there are people emailing you very early in the morning. I hope not. So just counselors are well aware of how to participate in a council meeting. So they should be aware of the rules, but for those of you who are on the call right now, who don't normally participate in a council meeting and will be joining us in the gallery, these are some of the ways that you can engage and get involved to talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to be chatting about at the general meeting. So if you hear something the day of, or you know that there's an item that you'd like to speak to in advance, you can email speaker@wusa.ca to request 4 minutes of speaking time to a motion. That way I know to put you on the speaking order so that our team in the back end can pull you up so you can speak to it. So that's one way that you can do it. The next way, I guess I'll give you the timeline for that. You need to let me know by noon so that I can give those names to my team. That way you can be added into the speaking order that we've put together. The other way that you can speak as a gallery member is to let us know in the chat that you would like to speak. And then the assembly, which is the group of students who are made up of our Students' Council, will then hear your comment and will decide if you are coming up onto the screen, or I guess into the chat to speak to an item. And again, you would have a 4-minute allotment to speak. So it'll kind of happen in 2 steps. You'll try to be added to the speaking order. We'll get to you in the speaking order. Michael, the former president of WUSA, will ask the assembly if we would like to hear from the student. The assembly will say yes, and then you will be given permission from the back end to unmute your microphone. Outside of those 2 above, I guess those 2 conditions that I just mentioned, only delegates, so that's your student counselors, will be able to speak during that time. And again, they will have to be added to the speaking order. So they will be putting that in the chat to be added, but they will have different set permissions than members of the gallery. Okay, so those are kind of the ways that our gallery members will be able to interact with the general meeting. I guess we can just go over the agenda then now and talk a little bit about some of the things that might come up. All right, I know that Megan just sent me the link, but I feel, where is this? Megan, did you send the link?
Do you want me to share my screen?
I got it right here. Oh yeah, actually, Megan, that would be excellent because then I don't have to look all over the place.
Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, I think you can see the agenda now.
Great. Yes, I can. All right. So in a typical agenda, you may notice on the top that the chair of the meeting is going to be the former president, Michael. So we're really excited to have him back as a guest star or celebrity shot or whatever you want to call it, where he's going to be chairing the meeting on my behalf. The first kind of items on this agenda here is call to order opening remarks. That's when Michael is going to open up the meeting and provide the rules of the meeting, any guidelines that council has approved this year for how we conduct a meeting, kind of the behaviors that we would like to see and not like to see from councilors and any of those in the gallery who are coming to speak. Then we will move on to the approval of the agenda, which is the agenda set out here. Once that is approved, there's the minutes from the previous year's meeting. So if you want to see some of the decisions that were made last year, you can check out those minutes. I'll also add that it was brought to my attention today that this link in this document is broken. So the PDFs have also been included on the website. So please make sure that you pull that up. That's been fixed now. So thank you to the student who brought that to my attention. Then we move on to our governance and administrative items. And if Megan could just scroll up a little bit for me, because I'm actually blocking all of the items. We have a presentation of our audited financial statements, which Alana, giveaway, and some of our staff are going to help with and present. People on the call will have an opportunity to ask questions, provide comment, and then we will move on to the election of the board of directors. For the first time last year, there was a report put together by a screening panel who interviewed and took a look before directors were presented to the general meeting for election and put together how they would recommend those individuals be voted on to the board of directors for the next fiscal year. So there is a report included there that talks a little bit about the panel's findings, and then councillors will vote for the director candidates by secret ballot. Then we move on to the member submitted proposals, which are submitted by any member of the association, so any undergraduate student at the University of Waterloo had an opportunity to submit a proposal. We received 2. The first being about professional development and WUSA's stance on professional development at the university. And the second is about student services and anti-racism, which we'll have an opportunity to discuss, and those who put forward the proposal will have the opportunity to speak to. I don't know if there's anything else that we should go over here for the general meeting agenda. I'm thinking at this point, I can take some questions specifically to the general meeting and not, I don't know, what do the rest of my team think here?
Oops, sorry, I was just trying to get our faces back. Yeah, I think diving into any questions about the general meeting is a great idea. And then we can maybe hop over to some of the general questions that I see popping in the question box.
Sure, I only see one here. Why isn't WUSA letting all, where is it? Why isn't WUSA letting all members participate in the GM like other societies such as MathSoc have done? That's a really great question. So last year, WUSA did a delegated meeting, general meeting as well. The reason we chose to do that again this year is just, quite honestly, it's very, very difficult to run very large meetings on virtual platforms. It's hard to chair, it's hard to manage. It can take a really long time if we need to get through a lot of items. This way, all members still have the opportunity to participate and speak, but it helps us kind of manage the number of people who are in the space. Quite honestly, if we had 200 students who all had access to mute and unmute and had access to a chat, it can get incredibly overwhelming and really, really difficult to manage for the people who are putting things together. You've even seen here in the chat that sometimes things can get lost very quickly in this informal setting. And that was something that we noticed pretty immediately once we started doing a lot of large meetings online for our Students' Council, that even that number of students is really hard to just manage from a logistical perspective. We hope to be back to a regular general meeting once we are all back on campus and can safely congregate. There's a comment here. How come motion 6 is recommended for rejection? Seems a bit unfair. Megan, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find the button for that one in. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, so the question was, why is motion 6 on the GM agenda recommended for rejection, and who makes that recommendation? So that recommendation is made by the board of directors. The board of directors assists the president essentially in preparing the agenda and has the power to remove items that violate our bylaws. The board is also a body with kind of fiduciary responsibility over the organization. So they look at the organization from a holistic perspective. And so their recommendation for this rejection is saying that the passage of this motion would not be beneficial for the organization. As someone who works really closely with CEE, so cooperative and experiential education, which WAPD falls under, I can speak a little bit more to that. I guess on a couple notes. First of all, professionalism. I mean, I think that when you're speaking colloquially with your friends, or posting on Reddit, you might be inclined to express your dissatisfaction with PD. But in order for us to in order for us to be respected in the conversations that we're having in spaces about important topics like WAPD, it's important that the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association is professional. And frankly, I don't think that adopting such a slogan would be professional. And then the second point I wanted to make is around efficacy of advocacy. It's very ineffective to say, like, this is terrible, I hate it, and then just leave it at that. It's much more constructive to say, I don't find this to be effective, or I don't like this because of this reason, that reason, whatever reason. So for example, I don't think that WAPD is effective because there are no topics that are applicable to what I want to do for work after graduation. And then you can take that concern and turn it into a recommendation. So, for example, if you are in the Faculty of Environment, just as like a random example, and there's no PD courses that are related to something that's like more relevant to your program, then you can use your expertise as the one with that concern to highlight to them what PD courses would be useful to someone in your situation. So in order to kind of continue having those conversations and push the university in a positive direction, I think that it would be a really great idea to take on PD advocacy in that sort of way, but not in the sort of way that this motion is proposing.
I'll also add that when the board discussed this, they actually originally discussed having council have a discussion on this and determine steps forward for advocacy. But based on our bylaws, if you submit a proposal by the deadline, it is put onto the general meeting agenda. So as it is currently proposed, the board actually saw value in moving forward with PD advocacy at the council level. But did not feel that, as the motion is currently written, that it was appropriate to be passed as the statement for the organization. There was one other question about the GM that I just wanted to quickly remind everyone of. So I did just mention that the meeting link for the general meeting was just created right before we jumped into this call together here. So I haven't had an opportunity to type up an email and send that out to anyone who requested to be in the gallery, as well as any of the counselors, because I also need to provide you with the meeting guidelines and any additional information so that you kind of know how the meeting will go about. So please give me a little bit of time to put together that email and send over the link your way. Again, I just received it right before we got in here, and I think it would be a little rude if I were to host this and be typing up an email at the same time. I want to make sure that I'm giving this my full attention. So please be patient with me is all I'm asking. Okay. Moving on from the general meeting, we now have quite a bit of time to answer some of your questions and talk a little bit about some of the things you're thinking. So please remember to use the ask a question thingy down here. I'm new to Crowdcast. This is the third time I've ever used it, and I still haven't figured it out. So somewhere down there. Again, as I mentioned earlier about having a ton of people in a meeting, everything gets lost in the chat. So please try to use that question box. That would be really helpful for us. All right, so I'm going to start off with the first question, which is for Megan. What kind of things are you hoping are in the federal budget when it comes out in April? Oh, you're on mute, Megan.
It wouldn't be an online event if someone didn't do that once. So there we go. I took the bullet, guys. Okay, so I just put a link in the chat and in response to that question. So there's a few things that we're hoping for. I think the biggest thing that we're looking to see is investments in student financial aid. So like I was kind of mentioning on the provincial side, we all know that COVID-19 has had pretty significant financial impacts, especially for young people. So we are asking for the grace period on student loans. So after you graduate, the period where you don't have to pay to be extended, and for Canada student grants, the amounts to be increased. I see a follow-up question from one of our counselors as well, which is asking any support for international students. So yeah, if you head to that link and check out the second point under federal budget recommendations, so that one is supporting international students, and we're asking to prioritize international students by including them in federal employment programs and increasing funding for student work placement opportunities for both international and domestic students. So there's kind of a couple pieces to this. There's the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy, or the YES program, which is one of the big pieces that the federal government is rolling out for youth employment. And that program targets vulnerable groups. And I think that, vulnerable is kind of an odd word to use, but it's kind of like government policy lingo in terms of how to describe people who are less likely to be able to find a job. And so we should be targeting programs to support them. So asking for students' inclusion in the YES program is a big part of our ask, as well as the student work placement program. So that is a program which funds lots of co-op placements, so super relevant to co-op students at the University of Waterloo. And right now it's only open to domestic students. So if an employer is hiring someone and they want that funding, it has to be a domestic student. So we are asking the government to open up an amount of funding to be open to both international and domestic students. The government is very concerned with kind of like swinging the pendulum the other way and like overly incentivizing the hiring of international students and taking jobs away from domestic students. So that's why we're not asking for funding that's only going to be available for international students. We're kind of asking to level the playing field and make it a fair opportunity for both international and domestic students to be able to find these jobs. There's a couple more asks, which I won't get into for the sake of time, but one of them is related to undergraduate research opportunities, and the other is related to access to post-secondary education for Indigenous students. So I would encourage you to check out the link, and if you have any questions or want to learn more, then feel free to shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat too.
Great, thanks, Megan. Next question here. I know that Nada already answered this in the chat kind of comment section, but I think it'd be good to hear it out loud as well. So did you make an equity fund yet? And if so, how do I apply? So I'm going to pass it over to Alana, but I'm going to read Nada's comment here. It's underway. If you are looking to apply for an equity initiative, you can still apply to our Enterprise Opportunity and Innovation Fund for the time being, but I'll throw it over to Alana as well.
Yeah, so this was one of our annual plan goals, and we are almost there. Basically, we are looking into incorporating it into the EOI fund. So we're currently just kind of like documenting the changes that would need to be made, and then we will bring it to Students' Council once the internal funding committee and the executives have had a chance to look it over. And then it's really up to Council whether they like that idea or not. And then we can move forward from there.
Thanks, Alana. Oh, there's a comment here that said, can we attach the financial statement supporting documents to the agenda? Is that the general meeting agenda? I thought they were attached. If those links are also not working, I will get that up immediately. if someone on the back end wants to do that for me while I'm talking here, that would be excellent. All right.
Can I answer a question that I see?
Yes, I see VP Ed Town. Will WUSA advocate? Oh, what is this? Yeah, well, which one are you trying to answer, Megan?
Oh, I wanted to answer how can
All
I
of
be
them?
as amazing as you are?
Oh, the first question here, the one with 3 votes?
Yeah.
Okay,
that one.
you can answer that one.
Okay, I wanted to say that you are sadly this year too late to be as amazing as we are because elections have already passed. So if you want to be as amazing as us, you'd have to run next year. Sorry, tough cookies. But I believe we're going to be holding a by-election in the summer. Is that right, Abbie?
For council, yes.
Yes, so there are open seats on students' councils. So be sure to keep an eye out in your inbox for by-elections so that you can get more involved with WUSA, because I'm pretty sure there is like a direct correlation between involvement with WUSA and awesomeness. Oh, amazingness, but also awesomeness.
Great. This one also had a reply comment. So this is, how do I support anti-racism while on co-op? So Nada had provided a response here that says, read more and help educate folks on what initiatives they can get involved with. This is a general answer, but we would be happy to refer you to some resources. I also might point you in the direction of some of our student-run services, as well as some of the links that we've shared and some of the updates on our website as well. So that's a good start to that question, but definitely reading as much as you can is a really good place to start. The next question here is the SLC expansion likely going to be open in the fall term? It looks like Alana provided a response. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that one, Alana.
I don't have much elaboration. The current estimated time, yes, the current estimated time has changed many times, so I make no promises, but as the information that we currently have, that is the plan, yes.
Great. Okay. Oh, there's a question, another question about the general meeting that just jumped up to the top. Is there a chance for motion 6 to be split into 2 motions where the first part could be voted on? I would really like for WUSA to push for PD/CECA to improve. Any of us who have taken PD courses all know that the courses are plagued with problems in the ways of content and presentation. So to that user, as I mentioned, one of the best things that you could do with something like that is bring that up and have that brought forward as a discussion item at the April Students' Council meeting. That way we can put together an advocacy plan with the current and incoming team in the room to really set some of that direction for the next year. I think that that would be one of the best ways forward. That way yourself can speak more freely, have an opportunity to engage in the conversation further. That would definitely be one of the best ways to bring that forward. I would highly recommend reaching out to your counselors, because then they can help you put together a proposal that they can bring forward that talks a little bit more to what you would actually like to see. And then our AVP Co-op Affairs can have an opportunity to kind of help with that as well. And Nada has also put in the chat that CCA and CEA are hiring for a few student panels on anti-racism. So check that out on their website or their Instagram if you'd like more information. And Vincent, you're right. It didn't answer the question on if the motion could be split into to be it resolved. That would have to be done on the day of. So the assembly would have to make that decision. If that's something you'd like to bring forward, please have a conversation with the rest of your math caucus, and then a conversation with myself so I can prepare Michael for that. All right.
Carl just put an excellent link in the chat to the page on our website for Students Council. So for any students who are watching this and are like, hey, how do I contact my counselor? That link, their email, and then you can reach out to them.
Great. I'm waiting for the next question to pop up in front of me here. Someone asked us, how do we juggle this and school? I guess I can quickly answer that, and then if anyone who took classes this year, like I did, wants to jump in too, we actually work, I would say full-time times 4 or full-time times 3, depending on the week, in these roles. So we actually take a year off, or maybe this is the first thing we do when we graduate. So how do we do this in school? For the most part, we don't, but I'm currently in one class. And speaking from experience with that, even just one class, it's incredibly difficult and challenging. So I would highly recommend if anyone is thinking about doing these roles to plan for taking that full year off and dedicating yourself to this job. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that.
Chad asked a fun follow-up question in the chat, which is why does the university make you work so hard? Vincent has correctly identified that WUSA is not part of the university. And the reason that we are all here at 7:47 p.m. on a weekday night talking to students instead of, being off the clock is because we really care about students. It's not that like WUSA or council or board or anyone makes us work more. Ultimately we ran for these roles because we really love what we do. We really care about the people that we are serving through the student association, and that sometimes leads to working more hours in a week than is ideal for one's mental or physical health, just because there's a lot to get done and a lot of great ways to try and make a change for students at the university, and that's kind of what we set out here to do.
I think that's well put, Megan. I was on mute, but I made a joke. You said more hours in a week, and I said more hours in a week than exist, or at least sometimes that's how it feels. All right, I'm waiting for someone to give me another question.
I want to just voice a reminder for everyone in the chat to please just remember to be respectful and at least mildly on topic with your comments, just so we can keep this a fun place for everyone to be.
Can someone send me another question? Okay, how have you folks been supporting societies and clubs during this year? I can speak to supporting the societies because I work directly with the societies as part of my portfolio. So for our student societies, our faculty societies, and the societies over on our satellite campuses, once a month I meet with them as part of the committee of presidents, work with them on any projects that they need support on. So to give you a really good example of a very recent way that I've supported one of the societies during COVID was SciSoc, who, for those of you who are counselors on this call may remember from the last council meeting, SciSoc is working on these really cool grad boxes, very similar to the WUSA boxes that our first year students received in the fall. So SciSoc is working on some boxes for their graduating students, and I had the opportunity to meet with their faculty to make sure that they can get physical space on campus to box those and put them together. So a lot of the support that I give the societies is if they're having some trouble with making any waves at the university, I can step in with them and provide them with some extra support and direction. As well as just with kind of any questions, comments, workload issues that they might have, having trouble writing, getting their agendas ready or transitioning and not really sure what to do. I think a lot of people forget that we as students sometimes really don't know what's going on or what we're doing. And with COVID-19 and not having a lot of the physical supports that we normally would have, I stepped in and took a huge role in supporting some of our student societies who are really struggling without that physical on-campus support, or struggling without the support of people who may have graduated into the pandemic and are no longer around to provide them with some of that historical knowledge. So that was some of the ways that I was able to support the societies this year. I guess policy writing, giving them any advice that they need was also a way that I've done that. I think I've spent hours and hours and hours in meetings with EngSoc, so shout out to EngSoc. It's always a pleasure, but I've really enjoyed the time I've spent with and supporting the societies throughout COVID-19. And I see Matt and Kat in the chat from EngSoc, backing up my claim that I support the societies. So thank you both. All right, Megan, is there another question?
Oh, is that me? I thought it was on our back end.
Who's the back end?
Nada, are you up here with us? I don't see Nada on my screen.
Yeah, I was hoping that she would answer the question about supporting clubs. Or is Dave on the back end and wants to talk about how we're supporting clubs?
I'm just gonna kick Nada off and try to bring her back on. That's the plan. Attendee not live. Yeah, it says she's not here.
Okay.
I do not know. I am confused.
Okay. Well, while I'm waiting, I don't know if I know we have like my computer, what do you call it? Time clock is different than the one on my phone, so it looks like we have about 7 minutes left together. I don't know if there's any counselors who would like to come up and maybe ask some questions for those on the call ahead of the general meeting and would like to come up and join us. Any counselors want to come up and hang out with us?
The other thing I would add while we're killing time with technical difficulties is that if you asked a question and it didn't get answered, feel free to send us an email at exec@wusa.ca so we make sure that we don't lose it in the technological shuffle.
Oh, I think another question came in, but it also looks like there's a couple counselors who want to come up on the screen with us. So Megan, I don't have any of the controls. So if you want to help me out, or whoever's on the back end.
Oh my gosh, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Invite, there we go. And invite.
All right, who's joining us, Megan?
Me, apparently.
Oh, hi, Vincent.
Hi, I'm a math counselor.
Hi, Cannon.
I'm also a math counselor. Also, my background is really bad right now because that's what happens when you have the same workspace and bedroom.
Great. I don't know if you have any questions that you want to ask anyone. I think if I'm reading this correctly, there are 53 people on this call, right, Megan? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we had 53 in total. I think some people had to go, so right now there's 35.
Oh, that's still pretty good. So I don't know if the two of you have any questions to kind of ask the people on the call, if there's anything you need to get ready for the general meeting, or any math-related shout-outs that you want to give here at the end of the call?
Sure. I'll give a math-related shout-out. MathSoc GM is at 10:30 on the same day as WUSA GM. Please attend.
That sounds like a
yes,
really long day.
We are both in math.
Yes. Do people have questions for us?
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any math students on the call who have some, maybe not math-related questions, but I mean, I guess they could answer math questions because they're both in math.
I guess I can answer the question about the 225% thing. So I know this has been a hot topic this year with the math faculty nearly doubling their first year intake, I would say. Not doubling, at least like increasing it by half, so 1.5. I have been in talks with both the dean of the faculty, the associate dean, undergrad studies, and some of the things that they're working on are hiring more course instructors, hiring more TAs. At the most recent MathSoc meeting, I believe, there was a discussion about lack of TAs for a first-year math course, and we had the ADUG Benoit come in and join us for that meeting, and kind of we were able to discuss some solutions and give recommendations to that. And the faculty has also promised that they will not be increasing the intake for hopefully for the upcoming year, and I'm going to try and hold them accountable to that.
Yeah, same that Cannon said. I think he covered that well. I was at the same meeting as he was, so I have the same information as him. I'm not sure if 225 is the exact number. Benoit Charbonneau.
So the 225% was for CS. Like that's the increase of the CS students, but overall it was about 1.5, I would say, because I think we had around 2,300 first years this year. I guess there's a question about anti-Asian racism on campus, and since math faculty is about 50% international, a huge chunk of our population is from East Asian or Southeast Asian countries. This is something that is definitely close to all the people who are both involved in Math Caucus and MathSocs. And currently, I believe MathSoc is working on writing a statement and building a resource for all our students. I think we do have services on campus which over time are going to help us change the environment around the campus on racism issues. So I hope to work with them over the next year and see what we can do about that. Abbie, I don't know if you want to answer. There's a specific question about in the Q&A area about this.
Oh, Megan, can you see it?
Yeah, I can tackle that a little bit.
Sure.
So I think that racism is really concerning. Obviously, that's such a meaningless statement. I'm sorry. But equity work has been a really big priority for WUSA this year, and in kind of working with our incoming team and setting things out in the long range plan, it's going to continue to be a really big part of what WUSA does. When we're advocating for students, we do our best to represent the concerns that students have, both on a macro level, so when you think about things like student financial aid, as well as on a more specific level, so when we're talking about things like anti-Black racism or Indigenous students, international students, things to that effect. But something that is really challenging is how to advocate for students if we don't know the best way to help them or don't know the concerns that they have. So I would say, like, especially for like math students, it's really important to reach out to your counselors and reach out to your executive and express the concerns that you have so that we can advocate for you. RAISE is a fantastic service that WUSA supports, and through a large network of really dedicated student volunteers, they're able to do a lot of the more fantastic specific work that WUSA centrally can't do, especially as it relates to education. So one suggestion that I might have for incoming volunteers at RAISE and for the incoming executive is to continue to hold events to educate students about racism, and as was mentioned in the chat, specifically racism against Asian students, because a lot of racism is simply born out of ignorance, about not knowing, what is wrong. And it's kind of crazy to think about, because you're like, well, just don't be racist. But like, if you, for example, grew up in an area that wasn't very diverse, and the first time that you're coming to university and seeing all of these like really diverse people with all different beliefs and from all around the world, like you might say something that is racist. And I mean, we're not here to, cancel people who said something bad by accident. We want to help people learn how they can create a really supportive environment for their peers. So I think that's kind of how I would answer the question in the chat, but also noting that I'm done this job in about 5 weeks. So I think it's most important to continue these conversations with the student leaders that come after us in order to ensure that all of WUSA's members feel safe and supported.
I guess I'll also include here, because now that I can see the question, one part of the question is about kind of the timing. As you can see, if you were to take a look in the Ask a Question box, which I can now access, there's links to some resources there, some links to some of the information that has been put out by both WUSA and RAISE. And please be mindful that our student volunteers, and RAISE is run by student volunteers, ran a very large conference, a 2-day conference in the last week. So if you are experiencing a lag in responses from them, please be mindful of the time and energy that it takes to put together such a large conference, and be patient with them as they work to get a response. They're not full-time staff. They're volunteers who just want to improve the campus environment and work on behalf of students. So please be mindful of that when you're sending them emails and waiting for responses.
Mm-hmm. Abbie, I think we're getting the shepherd's crook here. So maybe I'll throw one last reminder. If you asked a question and didn't get an answer, please email us at exec@wusa.ca so that we can help you out with that. And I think that's all. Abbie, any closing words?
Yeah, and if you are still on the call and you have not requested to be a member of the gallery at the general meeting on Saturday, please remember to email speaker@wusa.ca. You'll be getting some really excellent information about what that meeting will look like, a reminder about speaking order and general rules for conduct during those meetings for both counselors too. So the counselors up here on the screen, you'll be receiving that as well. And again, please be patient as we put together those emails for you with all the really great information you'll need for Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that means we wrap up. It's 8:04 according to my watch. So thank you, everyone.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you to the counselors who joined us today.